Mother wants to legally force me to live with her even though I am 39. So my mother, 60, has always had a flair for dramatics and will convince herself of things that are just not true, and of course her brothers, my uncles, think it's hilarious and will get her worked up even more, while making fun of her for being so gullible behind her back. I cut her out of my life 4 years ago. We are in Michigan. Someone I trust in the family came to me with concerns that my mother may lie to try to get conservatorship over me. Here is what I know. Her current belief is that I am an unemployed alcoholic living in my car and being taken advantage of by evil men from the political party that she hates. This is not true. I have a place, pay my bills and had a full-time job last time we spoke. I did leave that job, but I also returned to school full-time on GI Bill, which includes a stipend for living expenses, and found a sweet part-time job, in an air-conditioned office, on campus. As far as I know, she has no idea I am back in school, and I haven't told anyone in my family, even the ones I trust, what is going on in my life. Problem is that she lost her job of over 20 years during a mass layoff sometime since we last spoke. These new coworkers haven't known her long enough to recognize how she doesn't keep her stories straight or how she flip-flops things around. Basically, she has led everyone she works with to believe I am only in my early mid-20s and haven't quite finished my teenage rebellion phase, and she is a good mommy who just wants to save her baby from the evil political party. They have all been helping her with research and believe because I have a disability rating from the VA, it means I am mentally incompetent. It does not at all mean that. Now I am positive that none of them actually understand how a VA disability rating actually works. My mother likely lied to them about it. Her new friends believe she can have me declared incompetent, force me to live with her for monitoring, and finally take control of my finances, thus getting control of my disability payments. I have an 80 rating, which is currently just under $2,000 a month. My concern isn't that my mother could prove I am incompetent, but it's that she could use court proceedings to get a hold of my address, school, or workplace. I guess my question is about rules of discovery when it comes to conservatorship cases. Can my mother or any lawyer willing to take her case on actually get a hold of my personal info I don't want her to have? If I provide courts with documents proving my competence and ability to care for myself, do I have the right to ask the court to seal or redact any information or documents with info I don't want her getting? She sabotaged me going to college around 20 years ago, and I don't want to go through that again. I am assuming that the first person I would ever have to deal with would be a social worker, and I want to know if I have any legal recourse to prevent the social worker from sharing my info with my mother. Update 1. So I talked with another family member who confirmed what the first said. Everyone is angry because I wasn't supposed to find out what happened because they were handling it. I refused to tell who told me, which is causing more anger, but whatever. So this situation had resolved itself last week. My mother was talking a big game about how she was calling lawyers and adult protective services. After a few days she started trashing on all lawyers and saying that APS was wasting taxpayer dollars. Apparently she has forgotten all about this whole mess. Her job got a new summer internet and my mother is obsessed. Every conversation anyone has with her is about this guy. My poor grandma has to have no less than a 1-hour conversation with my mother every day about this guy. The guy comes from a lot of money, which in the end was what I think she wanted with me. This guy just turned 20 and my mother is 60. Update 2. I was able to squeeze in meeting with the social worker who works at my VA clinic. I gave her the rundown and even showed her my 2 previous posts. She thought it was kinda funny. She informed me that if a state SW were to be informed of a veteran in a need, they would reach out to the VA and she would likely be a first point of contact. She said that no one from the county or state has contacted her about me yet, but she would make a note. Apparently, the whole Britney Spears conservatorship has made a lot of people think it's super easy to get conservatorship. She said some people think they will get paid a lot of money to do it. Her best guess is that if my mother did call, it was explained to her how complex the process is and that I would be guided to the VA to receive treatment first, before declaring me incompetent. She did agree with many of the comments that said my mother could find me pretty easily if she really wanted to. The SW used to work at the state office, and while she didn't work at Adult Protective Services, but she had friends and coworkers who did. Money seemed to her to be a really big factor in how hard people fought to get conservatorship. She was surprisingly compassionate towards my mother and said sometimes parents just get worried and worry makes people do stupid things. She said some parents have a hard time adjusting to their children becoming adults and moving out. Sometimes it's because they are losing child support, or they're losing the person who did all the chores, or because they just don't want to face reality that their baby grew up. And these parents will lash out at the world instead of accepting the truth. She told me about a case a friend of hers had where the parents of an adult woman who had moved out couldn't face reality. Her parents had been relying on her to do all the housework and raise her brothers. With her gone, everything fell apart at home. These parents blamed their daughter who had moved out instead of taking responsibility for their own lives. Her friend was so stressed by the case because she got yelled at by the parents almost daily about how the state needed to force their daughter to move back in with them. They never got their wish and almost lost their other kids. A grandparent found out what was happening and stepped up to set the parents straight. Someone had messaged me saying my post was blowing up on social media and I went looking for it and couldn't find it. They pointed out my family could see it, but I've decided I don't care if they do. So basically, if my mother really wants to find me she can, but the conservatorship isn't that easy to get, and I know my mother well enough to know she doesn't have the patience or money needed to pursue this anymore. Also, there seems to be a lot of rules surrounding conservatorship that I don't think my mother would have liked following. So I should be good for a while.